audience and other people. People are astounded. They'll send me emails and they'll get answers from me in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if I'm awake, I'm not gonna be laying in bed wondering when I'm gonna fall asleep. I get up and work and then fall asleep at my chair, which works great. Except you don't want to train yourself to do that because then you're at work, you fall asleep at your chair. However, at Google, it was considered okay to fall asleep in your chair. We even had couches around and you could just get out in the hallway and sack out for a while. And the rule was don't disturb them. They're not dead. They're just preparing for their next programming effort.
Yeah.
So, okay, so back to the topic. So social stuff isn't directly my forte.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't quite get it. But two things. Number one, there's lots of ways you can do social stuff. Email's just fine, and if you're my age, that's more than good enough. And then the next question is, asking your friends an esoteric question about fact that you might want, I think is a little risky.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they know? If you want to ask your friends about the trendy place to go to dinner or what they think about an issue, perfectly fine. But if you want to know about some esoteric property of something, or what is a Fibonacci series, or just about anything factual you might want to know about humanity or the culture of the world or what's happened in the past 300,000 years or so. That's what search engines are for, and that's what Google does.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually, the next level, when the world's knowledge, the compendium of the world's knowledge is somehow accessible, and it is. I mean, we all have it in our pockets with our phones now.
Right.
But if it was tied in through biometrics, if we all in this room, we all knew everything that Google has available to us, and we could conduct searches by just thinking it. What's going to happen here to our social consciousness, and how can engineering and technology serve that? It's going to enable it.
Well, there was a lot of assumptions in that question. I was just thinking about, okay, so I have a Google search engine in my brain and I can just ask a question.
Right.
Well, then I would have to trust the answer that came up.
Right.
So I think that would cause a lot of traffic accidents when I got distracted thinking about it, because it's not clear to me that there is such a thing as a right answer. Let's see. I think there's a famous statement in artificial intelligence. Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get that back from a search engine.
It's very helpful.
Right?
Yeah. I'm going to start a business.
There's no substitute for the use of the human brain.
Yeah. And will there be?
I don't think so. Not in a long time.
You can't engineer some sort of spontaneous original thought machine?
You could probably engineer something that would create all kinds of spontaneous stuff, but whether it has anything to do with the truth of physical reality or not, I'm not sure I would. Okay. That's pretty hard to do.
So distilling everything you've done in your life and all these teams you've built, what kind of advice do you have for today's entrepreneurs and today's small business owners? Well,
I'm not sure I'm very good at advice. I can only say, sort of in an editorial base, I hope I'm not slighting anybody in any meaningful way here, but if you think of the last economic recovery from the recession of 2000 to now, name the big companies that came out of it in America. Take Google off the list.
Okay.
Gets a little short, doesn't it? Our country is only going to play in the modern world in the next few hundred years if there are lots more Googles in whatever area makes sense. And it's going to come from entrepreneurs and from people who have ideas and have the courage to go out and start things. It's just that simple. And there's no better example, actually, than Google. There was Alta Vista. There was Yahoo. There was Ask Jeeves. Search was locked up. There was no reason why anyone in their right mind would start a company doing search.
Yeah.
Well, wrong. Just wrong. So, what can you say? You know,
Yeah.
if you can create an economic margin to your advantage, whether you're a person, a company, a nation, then it's potentially sustainable if you're producing a product that adds value to the world.
And I know you've been advising Google all this time since you left there, but how's the company evolved in the last 4 years?
It's gotten really big, and I see two different evolutions. I worry when I go up and I see, and I'm introduced to all these directors of and vice presidents of, and there are far more of them in engineering than in my mind's eye there were engineers when I left.
Yeah.
And more importantly, when I go there, I find myself, for instance, I can't walk the halls, even though I still have my old badge. I have my old badge. I don't have the proper new badge. And I get accosted by guards who escort me out, which is always very fun. I get escorted out, and then I call my former associate, and she comes out and lets me back in. So it's a little game I play. Okay. But, and then usually the guards are horrified when they figure out what they've done. And I said, no, you are doing your job. This is the Google way. You do your job. But really, it's a lot of more management in engineering that I would like to see, but then I'm not there. And the second thing is, the most gratifying thing of all, in this last year, 50% of the employment of Google are engineers.
And what was the percentage?
It was about 33 or so, 34 when I left, but we always said we want 50. And the thing that made Google work, by the way, which is probably the secret on why we didn't really need as much management as you might have thought it would have, Google is an engineering company, founded by engineers, headed by an engineer, and run by engineers, and the engineers run the show. Not finance, not marketing, not sales, and not manufacturing. And if you think of what Google produces, which is engineering, and the fruits of engineering in the form of the software it creates and the services it creates, that's the right thing. You know, you couldn't let a bunch of engineers run a factory, because factories produce things, not ideas. So there's plenty of role for all these other things that I just somewhat deprecated. But my dream was to see a real engineering company evolve that was absolutely run by engineers. And there's another one called Intel. And look what Intel's accomplished.
Now, talk a bit about the acquisition model versus organic creation of new ideas and concepts.
In Google, or just more?
In Google.
I never quite understood the acquisition model. I felt that our acquisitions were sometimes a little hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Most of them I inherited and had to figure out how you would integrate another culture into the company.
Right.
And that was fun. The most successful integration was Keyhole, which is what otherwise was known as the technology for Google Earth. They were right down the street. I met them, and I just said, you guys are doing really good work. Whatever you need, you've got. And don't let anyone come in and tell you you can't do anything. And if anyone gives